right, good morning, and this is one of those rare occasions where the whole team is here. Yeah. This is the Morning Cafe crew. Karibu sana, it is election night in the US. My name is Freddie Ndumuli.
My name is Shiksha Arora. Of course, you're watching the Morning Cafe show only on TV 47.
Hotter than your coffee, right?
Absolutely. We need it. Right now, it's super cold outside.
It's definitely. And the view is truly stunning in Ringita. It's about 9 p.m. in quite a number of states, and lower than that, it's about 6 a.m. in Nairobi, Kenya. And you're going to be following up, they're calling it a razor thin kind of race.
Neck and neck.
Neck and neck.
If you look at the international media right now, they're already looking at the numbers, the electoral votes, road to 270. And it looks like Donald Trump is already way ahead, over 115, some even projecting 162 electoral votes against Kamala Harris's about 62 or thereabout. But then again, it's still too early to call.
Too early because, the polls closed exactly at 5 a.m. East African time. So today is now going to be one of those days that we see numbers and numbers and numbers.
So who will it be?
Yes, and speaking of numbers, by the way, 97 women have been killed in the last 3 months.
In fact,
back at home.
In fact, that's something that we're going to be discussing from 8 a.m. onwards. We have an activist in studio. We also have a counselor because, you know, things like this really affect the mental capacity of a woman, especially when it comes to safety matters. You're always thinking about, should I be walking here? Should I be found here at this time of the night? Even sometimes, what should I wear to feel safe? So these are things that we'll be discussing with the activist at 8 a.m.
And I think the Star's given prominence to that story with even pictures of some of the victims on the front page of the Star today.
Yeah, so absolutely. So these are the women who were killed in cold blood. And, you know, the question is, who will stop these killings? The gruesome nature of the murders has really just sparked a nationwide outcry, with many calling on the president to declare the situation a national disaster. He did speak about it, in fact. He did say that this is a matter of, national concern, and he is going to be looking at it. And of course, it's something that we'll be talking about in detail. But yes, that is the front page of the Star. The photos of some of the women who have been killed in the past few months. 97 is the number, and we'll be looking at that. Yes, at least.
The other dailies, of course, have the US election getting a lot of prominence, plus back home, issues around abductions and what the police have done. Interior CS police on the spot. That's a big headline on the Standard. We'll be looking at this and a lot more with my panelists at 6:30. Kasim Tandaza, MP Matuga, Tabitha Mutinda, nominated senator, and Daniel Orogo, political analyst. As Shiksha mentioned, the femicide crisis also comes out at 8 a.m.
We also have Judith Ngerichi, of course, who is the wellness advocate and champion for women and vulnerable children rights, as well as Richard Ziwa Zimbalist, who is a counselor. So we'll be talking about that in depth from 8 to 9. And
the conversation will continue even after that, the femicide crisis. It is a big discussion. And we'll be having a very big panel of young people in studio to discuss this and a lot more as well. Do stand by for that conversation.
And
it is Wednesday.
Tasty Wednesday with Chef Brian. So we cooked up something very interesting. Turmeric rice, spinach chicken, and paprika chicken as well. Wait, spinach, paprika chicken, and turmeric rice. These are the three things that we cooked.
You had Fred on chicken. He didn't hear anything else.
Remember what chicken were doing in Tanzania yesterday? They were using chicken to actually traffic narcotics.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking, those must be traumatized chicken.
Yes.
Anyway. All right, so we take a look at the headlines this morning. And yes, as I had mentioned, the election night in the US, big discussion. America's choice is the big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Right, on the Standard, abductions, Interior CS police on the spot, and of course a huge picture there of the two candidates when it comes to the US election. We'll find out what happens. Stan.
Road to 270. Business
Daily. Borrowers, haters, IMF opposes CBK's plan to cut cost of loans, and you'll realize that since this week started, there's been focus on IMF.
IMF is telling Kenya what to do.
Yes, and they're just nitpicking what happened over the weekend. And when you see IMF in Kenya,
IMF is giving some very positive projections for other countries in the region, but when it comes to Kenya, it's just warnings. They also make mention of the US elections there. That's the front page of the Business Daily. On People Daily, how Ruto police crushed Gen Zs. Now, this is a report. Rights Commission and Police Oversight Agency release damning report. So this is exactly how the police managed the protest. We'll be back to look at it in depth.
Good thing we're seeing Gen Zs are back. You know, kuna wakati ulikuwa unasema we're no longer seeing the Gen Zs
moved on. Lakini sahi tunapatiwa tu story ya vile mulifinywa. It's not a very nice story.
Yes.
Yeah. Gazeti la Taifa Leo pale.
Wasema uamuzi ama Shikshi ungependa kujaribu?
Si leo. Si leo.
Wasema uamuzi wa kihistoria wa Amerika kuamua kwenye uchaguzi wenye ushindani mkubwa ambapo Harris au Trump anaweza kushinda.
Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo.
The
we cross the border into Uganda, yes.
Neck and neck, and that's what we are saying. Remember, this is, of course, the top story in majority of the newspapers, but it seems like they've decided, you know what, we will still give our national issues some importance, and that's exactly what they've done over here. Who will pay the price for coffee bill on page 4, 5, and 6, taking up majority of the newspaper right there from Uganda.
Yes, and you know, this was a big discussion the entire last week.
Yes, yes.
And I think they were hoping to have it on the front page for like 2 weeks, serializing just the whole story about the coffee bill. But then with news, you can never plan. So things keep coming up, and it is very rare for the Daily Monitor to have two different headlines on the front page. But yes, the US election, we cannot ignore, neck and neck. Still in Uganda,
we have transitional curriculum to run for 4 years on page 3. A-level syllabus, new plan unveiled. That's interesting, actually, because the last time that this happened was very many years ago.
There's a new vision.
The fact that there's a new vision and there's a plan for A-level syllabus, interesting.
Yes, and I remember back in the day when we were young, and because our 844 system was very different, so many of my friends had to go to Uganda to pursue what do you call the advanced secondary education, Form 5 and 6.
Form 5 and 6,
A-level.
AS and A-levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, that's as far as Uganda is concerned. We cross over to Tanzania, and we start with the Citizen.
So the credit rating upgrade boosts Tanzania's economic outlook. You realize the Citizen gives prominence to business matters and how Tanzania is really doing well. They always have a positive story about Tanzania's business outlook. So Tanzania has made significant strides in enhancing its credit worthiness with recent credit ratings by Moody's Investors Service and Fitch Ratings, placing the country among the top economic performers in sub-Saharan Africa. There's a particular rating by Moody's that happened, I think it was last month, that ranked Kenya, rather said Kenya isn't really doing well.
We're not doing well.
Yeah, so
you already can feel it, you're not doing well. Yeah. Even those people had said Kenya, no, I'm Kopoa. There's a story here very interesting about the SGR in Tanzania, which is still very new. They're saying SGR is being sabotaged. This is according to the Tanzania Railway Corporation. Tanzania Railway Corporation Director General Masanja Kadogosa has blamed disruptions in standard gauge railway services on acts of sabotage that are aimed at undermining the SGR project. They're even talking about people cutting off the power lines.
Yeah, and tampering with the voltage as well.
Yes.
So that is something that's very interesting to see.
Sisi hatujafika hapo kwa electric.
People's cables are being cut, which I think is quite catastrophic.
Yes. They also give some space to the US election on the front page of the Citizen. Key issues for voters in closest US presidential election. That is on page 2 of this paper. Tukiangazia masuala gazeti la Mwananchi.
Kuna hujuma SGR.
Alafu unaendelea kutuambia mambo zaidi.
Stan. Hapa Stan atanishikilia kidogo.
Nasema yabainika nyaya za umeme kukatwa kwenye njia ya SGR. Kadogosa, the gentleman pictures there, afafanua kuhusu hitilafu, asisitiza mchongoko. Hiyo hata Kenyans, we don't use some of this Swahili. Ziko vizuri. Zungumzia hujuma, uchunguzi kusaka wahusika wakamilika, majina kuwekwa hadharani.
Na unamnukuu hapo huyo
Masanja
Kadogosa anasema inabidi kuulizana sisi wote kweli ni Watanzania. Inakuwaje wengine wanajenga na wengine wanabomoa? Huu mradi unasaidia watu wengi na kurahisisha vitu vingi, lakini watu wachache ambao hata 100 hawafiki wanaingia kuhujumu. Hatutakubali.
Niliambiwa Tanzanians are big on.
Anauliza yani patriotism.
Tafadhali.
Imekuwaje nyinyi? Kweli sisi wa Tanzania kweli is appealing to the patriotic feeling of Tanzanians.
Yes.
So yes, watu washaanza kata stima, nyaya za stima kule.
Yep.
Na polisi wanasiasa washushiwa zigo la bodaboda. Bodaboda menace in Tanzania wanasema hii wanasiasa waangalie maneno. It's very political. By the way, bodaboda and mama mbogas are very political, even in Kenya. So yes,
haya si maneno mageni jijini.
haya si maneno mageni jijini. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies shortly. But for now, we go back and take a look at the weather situation in
Nairobi. It seems to be a super cold morning. In fact, it rained all night. It drizzled all night. So
it's still raining in some
I don't
parts.
understand what's happening because we're supposed to be getting into holiday weather. Fred, what's going on?
Well, we're still in October, extension of the short trains.
49 days, by the way. 49 days.
Yeah,
49 days to
today
Christmas.
you didn't give us the countdown.
49 days to Christmas.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Stan, for
But
holding
you can see
fort.
it's cloudy in the morning, but sunny intervals later in the day. Yes, there is some precipitation, but it's not a lot of rain. Even the rain,
Yeah.
but although
Just a slight drizzle.
quite some puddles all over. Humidity 98%. This is Nairobi, 16 degrees Celsius. It could get as high as 24 degrees later.
Yeah, the
on.
rain showers are expected from 1 and 2, at around 1 and 2 in the afternoon.
So we just call them showers, not
Yeah.
really. It's not thunderstorms.
It's a little drizzle.
Yeah.
Kilgoris.
Kilgoris iko karibu Masai Mara, Transmara huko karibu.
Feels like 14 degrees. Oh, some thunder and lightning expected at 1 and 2, as well as 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So up until then, it seems to be a pleasant day with some cloud cover. And yeah, the temperatures will go up to 26 degrees. Those are the highs that are expected in Kilgoris.
Now this is proper rain. The
Yes.
Kilgoris si kama ya Nairobi ya kujaribu. That is proper rain. Now if you're looking for holiday weather, yes, let's head out to Kilifi.
All right, highs of 30 degrees expected midday, that is from 11, of course, mid-morning. We expect 30% showers as well, so some slight showers,
So
as Fred has put it.
Chances of you even feeling a drop in Kilifi are
know.
close to
Yeah.
zero. This is
Go-
just
You're walking with
humidity.
a vest. Like,
Yes. Hata ukigongwa na tone la maji utafikiria ni wewe mwenyewe una sweat.
sweat with it.
It's holiday weather.
Holiday weather, as he said.
And Gilgil, which is in Nakuru,
Somewhere that is going to actually be very cold today. It's 13 degrees right now. It's going to get quite wet in the afternoon. But then before that, a little cloudy. So zoea ile juu utapata asubuhi.
chilly weather, highs of 21. Hiyo jua ni kama hakuna leo.
Yes.
Tumalizie Washington DC ambapo wanahesabu kura. Kule kuna joto.
Hey, Washington, D.C., wow, 28 degrees. As you can see, a sunny day all through. We are seeing some cloud cover from 2 p.m. onwards all the way until 6 p.m. Of course, it's looking like it's 25 degrees, 26 degrees. So pretty pleasant day.
Yes.
It
For
seems to be
the-
all good.
Yes, for the vote
Good,
counting.
good weather for vote counting.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no sweats there. No one's breaking into a sweat.
And you know the respective, what do they call it, campaign headquarters for each candidate.
Oh, yes.
They're already preparing for the party.
Yes.
Remember like when they rolled out a red carpet at the KICC just immediately after the last elections.
In Washington, D.C. right now, Kamala Harris is there.
That's
Just
her
what the-
home ground. That's where I
Yes.
think she has majority of
The whole
Yeah.
watch party.
vote.
Washington, D.C., New York have already been called for Kamala Harris.
Kamala, exactly.
So probably they're waiting for California and other states that are usually known to be blue states.
Yeah.
Because most of the red states are more or less done. Texas,
Florida, Illinois, Connecticut, which, by the way, I've called.
Illinois went blue.
Blue, yes.
Illinois, it's been called for Kamala. So that's just, these are just some of the highlights. A lot will change in the coming hours, especially with regard to the U.S. election. I don't know if we have anything else for the day's diary because I want us to
Yes.
look at the traffic later on.
And for the all right,
It is.
they do
That
have it.
is the colors that we need to see. Only
can
red
see
and blue right now.
A lot of red all over that
Majority, as you
map.
can see, it has
Yes.
been painted red.
So yes, there are states, especially California, which has a lot of electoral votes, I think
Yes.
over 50, which most likely will go to Kamala Harris. But just look at how many red states are there.
Wow.
Quite
So-
a number. And it needs to be around up to 270.
Of course, you can see South Carolina, Texas, Florida.
The numbers up there is what is important. 178 for Trump against Kamala Harris's 91.
91.
Road to 270.
270.
It means that Trump just needs less than 100.
Yes.
92 actually.
Wow. The gap is getting bigger and bigger.
It could actually be a very short day if
Yeah.
it continues like this. So
At
this
the
could
same
just be a
rate,
very short
absolutely.
day.
So it will no longer be the neck to neck that we were hoping.
Trump appears to be outperforming what he did in 2016, which is quite impressive for him.
Yes.
Kamala Harris, slow start.
Yeah.
Najua hapa Kenya watu wengi ni wa Kamala.
Yeah, we are.
Ngojeni tu kidogo, ita change kidogo, but hiyo namba imeenda sana. This one, a lot has changed. All right. So let's go back and take a look at the diary as I prepare the dailies.
And even on the diary, so apart from us right here in Kenya and even in our subsequent bulletins, just following up on how the vote counting will be, we'll be breaking it down for you, and particularly what it means for us as Kenyans, the kind of policies that both the Democrats as well as the Republicans have for us as Kenyans. We'll be breaking it down for you so that you can understand. When you say, I'm supporting Kamala, this is what Kamala stands for. But back at home, speaking of tests, KCSE examination timetable, it is day 3 for the theory exam papers. Today, what did you score in chemistry with it?
It was so kitambo.
Long ago.
It was,
Like
in the last
1955.
millennium. Last millennium. I did my KCSE in 1999, which is actually the last millennium.
Wow.
So I can't remember. We're in a new millennium. 25 years ago.
What about you, Stan? Talk to us.
Well,
We're chemistry.
yeah.
So chemistry
I did-
paper 2 is coming up.
Yes, I didn't have chemistry with chemistry.
The only chemistry he has is in real life. But chemistry, when it comes to books,
No. Yes, paper 2 is coming up for chemistry, as well as now this is something that I loved, English paper 3.
Oh.
Composition.
Yes,
Hapa ndo naandika it was a sweet morning.
that's where we learned how to cook Jabba stories.
Ilikuwa stories ajabu kweli tu.
Something else happening today, the Principal Secretary Foreign Affairs, that is Korir Sing'oei, is going to be having a press briefing with Dr. Gloria de la Fuente Gonzalez from, I've forgotten which country, but then at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters. We're also going to be having former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua appearing virtually before the Court of Appeal judges, that is Patrick Kiege, Agri Muchelule and George Odunga. This is on the matter of the suspension of the 3 judges of the High Court. So something also to look forward to. That, among others, in our subsequent bulletins. Don't go too far on that one.
All right. Let's come back and take a look at the dailies now. America's Choice is a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation today. They call it historic, and they say it started as a showdown between incumbent Joe Biden and the man who he had dislodged from the White House. After 4 years, Donald Trump, but towards the tail end of the divisive campaign, the contest had yet another sudden twist. And we have a picture there of Americans queuing to cast their votes. This happened yesterday. The polls have already closed, and vote counting is underway in many of the states. Some have already declared their results, and the count continues. So yes, that's going to be a big discussion here. And what does it mean to Kenya if Donald Trump actually becomes the president?
Yeah, that's something that I think is very interesting because, you know, Trump favors unilateral actions that deliver direct returns to the U.S. Kamala, on the other hand, prioritizes building alliances with Kenyan civil society. So I feel like when it comes to business, Trump is somebody that, well, Kenya should definitely be looking forward to having more connections with in terms of the unilateral ties. And, you know, Trump's Africa policy is something that was more transactional. And that's what I would say, prioritizing the U.S. economic benefits over governance.
All right. Away from the U.S. election, back on the front page, Ruto headache in picking Interior CS. Remember, we do not have a substantive CS for Interior. Right now, Musalia Mudavadi is acting Interior CS. So he has a delicate balance. That story is on pages 4 and 5. The president needs to balance a lot of politics in picking the next CS for Interior. Pale juu, state changes tune on SHA. Non-salaried will now have option to pay premium monthly premiums monthly, and that is what is there on the story on the back page. Informal workers to make monthly payments. A lot is changing when it comes to SHA and SHIF. And
Every day
anyway.
there seems to be new things that we're hearing.
Meanwhile,
we're
there's
learning
still a lot of pain in hospitals.
Yes.
So yes, that's the Daily Nation today. Let's focus, take a look at the other paper, and that's the Standards.
Abductions, Interior CS police on the spot. It goes on to say accountability. 2 government right watchdogs want MPs to sanction the Interior Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police over police misconduct during anti-tax demonstrations, even as legislators demand answers on abductions, extrajudicial killings and the results of KN8CR and IPOA probe. That is on page 8 of the Standard. Of course, that's something that we are seeing, but of course this is majority of the newspapers are covering this particular one where America decides who will it be, Kamala versus Trump. And yeah, remember the number of electoral votes needed to win the US presidency is 270. As we saw, Trump is already on 178. So that means that just less than 100 to go for him to actually win the US presidential elections 2024.
All right. Other quick highlights on the front page, Stanley, of the Standard are there on the left-hand strip.
Why bottom-up model is struggling. They talk about the Parliamentary Budget Office outlining multiple obstacles that are slowing down the bottom-up economic model's effectiveness. Other conversations then matters education, fresh bid for free education. Kiambu Senator Karungo Thangwa wants 112 billion cash shillings in various bursary kitties consolidated and used to fund free secondary education. I know this is a conversation we're going to be having with the members of parliament that are going to be having today. Meanwhile, in matters business, the Kenya Revenue Authority goes after nil tax filers. Yes.
Fikiwa.
Acha kuangalia kando, it is you that we are talking to this morning. They say the government is expanding mandatory use of personal identification numbers, or as you know it, PINs, for various government services to improve tax compliance.
Very interesting, I guess, headline right there, because it's going to change a lot of things. Because I do know a number of the youth go this way when it comes to filing taxes. They always put nil, nil, nil.
Na saa hiyo washaunda pesa.
Guess what?
Okay.
Things are going to change.
On the back page of the Standard, there's tonight's fixtures in the UEFA Champions League. Arsenal will be away to Inter Milan. You can try and see if at all your team is listed there. If it's not, your team yenyu ni ndogo. That's 11 p.m. kickoff.
That's why I moved behind. You guys can have a conversation.
That's a Standard. Let's focus on the business daily now.
Yes, it matters business. They talk about borrowers hit as National Monetary Fund opposes the Central Bank of Kenya's plan to cut cost and of loans. They've been giving warnings. The latest they were giving on warnings of having a number of people who are supplying power to the country, and they're saying Kenya Power should be the sole provider of power.
Shouldn't be a monopoly.
Yes. Here they say lender says Kenya may lose out on investment flows. The Treasury and the CBK is pushing for lower rates to stimulate economy. Other conversations there, growth of new taxpayers slows on collapsed finance bill. Just a context of that, KRA expects a slow growth in the number of new taxpayers it targets to recruit in the current financial year ending June 2025. After its strategy was derailed by the collapse of the Finance Bill 2024.
Of course, there's new measures that, the government is looking to try and get tax out of, I guess, these different avenues. For instance, I don't know if you guys have seen, the passengers who will be coming into the country from the airport will now have to declare their IMEI numbers of their phone. This is obviously to avoid the fact that we are having so many phones coming into the country without paying taxes. So that's one measure. Another measure that we've seen is the fact that pay bill seems to be something that will be now integrated into KRA system. So M-Pesa pay bill seems to be, I guess, this has always been a bit of a loophole, right? When it comes to tax pay.
Hiyo mambo ya kutuma mtu Dubai akuletee simu. When you're coming back from Dubai, beba simu. Hiyo imepotea.
This also seems to be things that might be changing in the near future to try and crack down on people who don't pay taxes.
That plus a raft of new taxes that are going to be introduced will...
sanitary pads, diapers, tampons.
Kumbuka Gen Zs were not very happy with that.
Yeah.
Some of that was included in the finance bill. They were not happy. Talking about Gen Zs, how Ruto police crushed Gen Z protests. That's a big headline on the front page of the People Daily. Faced with an existential political threat by brave youngsters demanding good governance, state deployed dark arts, including abductors, extrajudicial killers. So this is according to a report.
Yes.
And
that
they've used an
photo
image.
from the Mandamano. Of course,
Yes.
no, that's a protest actually, where they were demanding that people who had been abducted to be returned to their houses, people who were killed, that is through extrajudicial killings as well. So yeah, this is the People Daily.
Yes, that story is linked to the other one where John Buddy is holding his hand there.
Yes.
Inside States scheme to reintroduce finance bill.
Yeah.
So they're doing it in a different way. They're calling it tax amendment bill. Amendment bill.
Not the finance.
No, they're not calling it finance bill. They're going to amend those taxes either way.
Yeah.
Most of them were contained in the finance bill that was rejected.
One up, breaking.
Yes. Hey. Anyway, we're keeping up with the US elections still.
We really are.
The numbers
We
keep
really are.
changing. Na inakaa ni kama imekuwa ngumu.
Yeah.
Limit children's screen time to just 2 hours is also there on inside pages of the People Daily. Tukimalizia na gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Nasema uamuzi wa kihistoria focus on the US elections. Baada ya kampeni kali uchaguzi wa urais, Amerika itaandikisha historia kwa kuchagua mwanamke wa kwanza kuwa rais au kurudisha rais aliyeondoka mamlakani katika ikulu ya White House akiwa amehukumu na mahakama na pia akiwa mwenye umri wa miaka nyingi zaidi kuwa rais. Kwa sasa
If you look at the numbers,
207,
yes, 207 already.
Things
Trump
are looking in favor of Mr. Donald Trump.
against Kamala Harris.
Percent nationwide. He's
Yes.
leading with 207 electoral votes.
Now you see the difference in the popular vote is so
Yes.
minimal. It's only 5 million votes, yes?
But when you look
but
at it,
in terms of the electoral college numbers, it's so huge.
16 are still uncalled for, as you can see.
yes,
But
that's for
yes.
for the Senate.
And-
The Senate race.
Yes.
Wow. But, well, I don't know. Now Trump needs only 63.
63, just in
Yeah.
a few hours maybe?
63. This one is, I think, moving very fast.
But-
Faster than any person had
We
predicted.
And I did not expect this, to be very honest, because when you looked at the pre-elections, I feel like this is something that we thought was very neck and neck.
But,
You know,
but
the margin was
states,
not so high.
states that hold very high electoral
Yes.
college numbers like California, which is traditionally a Democrat state, 54 could actually go Harris's way. Harris's way, actually.
Yeah.
So she might just move on to 140, 150 within one count.
So
So
she's,
you never know. You never know. It's still too early.
She's banking on swing states right
Either way, for them, in such an election, both of them will cross the 200 mark.
Yes.
So crossing the 200 mark does not mean you've won. It just means that counting is slow in some areas. So don't lose hope. Watu wa Kamala.
Don't lose hope, indeed. So yes, this is the current situation when it comes to the dailies. And let's get to my favorite part
Still on the
of
same,
the
actually.
newspapers.
On
Still on the
US,
same.
US polls.
This is a cartoon on the People Daily.
Yes.
I'm an election observer from Kenya. Spoil me with something small and I'll influence who will count the votes and how.
Yes. That's a kind of a resource we can offer.
Yeah.
Yes. Consultancy. Name it.
Kenyan flag right there.
Scary,
wrapped.
spoil me with something small.
Something small and then, but I mean, interestingly, the fact that even for them, they were able to start voting as early as September via mail. When you take a look at the kind of lessons that Kenya should be learning from this, with as much as, yes, we're having 2027 polls and politics in that matter, but these are lessons we should be learning, the way to do elections.
The preparation when it
Yes.
comes
But it would appear the Kenyan commentator understands that voting does not really give you the numbers.
Doesn't.
Something small.
Gives you the numbers.
Yes, matters health. This is a
Daily Nation.
Daily Nation cartoon.
as you can see.
So they talk about cartels and shifts. So there's a Kenyan here who was given all she had in the
Yes.
pocket. And this is very much like the biblical story of the widow who gave all she had. One of the parables that Jesus gave. She gives all she has, but then the cartels are here and they are ready to eat.
With the massive fork.
Yes. So could it just happen the same way as it happened with NHIF, that cartels will still rule the day.
Service for the people.
This is the standard. And these are 4 words that the president has been using.
Service for the people.
Yeah, so far. And just changing tune from what we know, what he used to say, now to service for the people with his spanking new deputy president.
Yes. Service for the people, not just the villages. Yeah. So it's a cartoon on the Standard today. So is it change of tack? Because I've seen on one of the stories there, they're talking about why bottom-up model is struggling. So are they changing from bottom-up to service for the people? It's just one of those fancy
Are they also going to change? Are they also going to change the wheelbarrow to something else?
All right. So these are just some of the discussions we'll be having with our panelists after the break.
Yes.
Senator Tabitha Mutinda will be in studio alongside Kasim Tandaza, MP Matuga, and political analyst Daniel Orogo. So do stand by for that. Later on, that big conversation about
Femicide. We're going to be having Richard Ziwa Zimbalist, who is a counsellor, as well as Judith Ngerichi, wellness advocate and champion for women and vulnerable children rights. As you saw the Star, that was the cover page where we saw some faces of the women who were killed in the past few months. So we'll be discussing that at length as well.
Yes.
I think from 8 all the way until 10.
Yes.
We had that conversation. No, 8 to 9, and then 9 to 10 we'll be having our Tasty Wednesday.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even apart from Judy as well as Zio, we'll also be going to be incorporating young people.
Yes.
Just to tell us, because they form the largest population in the country. Just to tell us what is really happening out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're watching Morning Cafe. Let's take a break now. We'll be back in a moment.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. we dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back and good morning once again. This is the Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indemuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines today, and there's no bigger headline than what's happening on the global scene. The US elections dominating even our local dailies on the front pages. The Daily Nation going with America's Choice as a big headline, and pictures there of the main candidates, the two candidates, and Americans queuing to cast their ballot. The polling closed at 5 a.m. Kenyan time. So counting continues. And a look at international media, and because the BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, and everyone else is just talking about the US elections. CNN already putting Donald Trump ahead by 195 electoral college votes against Kamala Harris's 91. Others have Donald Trump already having crossed the 200 mark and heading very first towards the required 270 electoral votes for him to be president. Will this change? We'll be here to keep a look at that. Plus, the main conversation, even within the region, is what does this mean for us? What does this mean for us as Kenyans? What does it mean for Ugandans or Tanzanians? And you realize that all the local dailies and the regional papers too have this story on the front pages. Meanwhile, KCSE exams continue. Chemistry paper 2 this morning. After that, we'll have General Science paper 1, and later in the afternoon, English paper 3, which is the composition. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. We're privileged to have, for the very first time on the Morning Cafe panel, Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Karibu sana. It's a pleasure to have you in studio.
Pleasure is mine too. Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana. A familiar face on this panel, Kasim Tandaza, MP Matuga. It's good to have you back in studio. Karibu.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wishing our candidates success.
Asante sana.
Please avoid cheating.
Yes. Chemistry paper 2.
There was no cheating during our time and where we are. Why cheat now?
Yes. I know the temptation, especially with chemistry paper 2, is quite high, but with the English composition, it's much better because it's up to your creativity. So yes, we wish them well. Yeah. Let's start off with a big story, and this is the American elections. As it's looking right now, Donald Trump is ahead. I can see even according to Al Jazeera, Kamala Harris has crossed the 100 mark now, 112 electoral votes going her way. Trump 204 already, so he needs just about 66 to get to the 270. If things stay the way they are, Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States. Those are the numbers from another media house, still in the US. Trump definitely leading. So that's NBC, yes, that's NBC. So the question is, because we've seen how the current administration, William Ruto's administration, has been working with Joe Biden as president. Our president was there for an official state visit hosted at the Oval Office just a few months ago. We've seen how close he is with Meg Whitman, the ambassador to Kenya. Now, if things stay the way they are, there could be a major shift. Bwana Kasim Tandaza, do you anticipate anything markedly different if Donald Trump becomes president for Kenyans?
Thank you, Fred. For the few years I've been on earth here, I think for America and their policies overseas, I have not seen them change much depending on who occupies that office. They are more on their policies and I believe their constitution. They've been friends all over with Israel for as long as I remember. They have not been very close to Russia for as long as I can remember. And when it comes to the African continent, I think our relationship with those superpowers is about what they can give us, you see, in terms of probably development and whatever. Remember, even the IMF is domiciled in America and other institutions. So basically, that is the way it has been. Even when Trump was the president before Biden came in, surely, how much did we lose? And even when Biden came in, how much did we lose for those 8 years? In fact, I don't think we've gained much either way from Trump's administration to Biden's administration. If we look at what we are mostly interested in terms of either development aid during Trump's time and Joe Biden's, there isn't much that I can really think of in terms of mega infrastructure development done by the American people or done through the Trump administration or the Joe Biden administration. If it's a social relationship, inviting people to the Oval Office and having a cup of tea and taking a few photos here and there, I don't think that really benefits the country, our country, the way we would have wanted it to be. Look at the Eastern, when you are looking at China, you see, they're the ones doing the major infrastructure development. In fact, I think it was yesterday when I think there was a project was to be done by France and now again shifted to China. We are not seeing much of that shift to the American government. So I would, while I cannot say that they are not superpowers and they can affect our living here as Kenyans, their administration to me will not, I don't think I would really think that there would be a major shift in the way we handle Kenya. Even if the current ambassador is removed and of course a new government comes in, they'll bring in their own ambassador. It's neither here or there.
What about, Senator, the issue to do with immigration policies? Donald Trump has been very vocal. It's been one of the biggest issues in the campaigns there. And we know that remittances from the diaspora are huge. A lot of Kenyans are in the US. Most of them are immigrants, probably not even with proper paperwork. That could mark a shift in how we relate with them. A lot of the money that comes back from what we call summer bunnies. Don't you think that with a Trump presidency, it could mean a major shift in as far as the immigration policies, Kenya's traveling there for work?
Actually, before maybe I even respond to that, let me say that I am really wishing Kamala Harris, the best. As women, we really praying for the best for her because, of course, it will be a very big win, not only for America, but for women at large. But back to your question in regards to the issues of the, what next? How will it be? Definitely, there'll be a change. Definitely, it will be different. Because Trump has spoken out. He's come out and spoken his mind out in regards to immigrant issues. One of the things is he says that, will be deportation issues. Then where do we live, not only our Kenyans, but even the East African at large, as Mheshimiwa Kasim is talking about. And you put the people, you know, at a situation whereby then their future is dependent on you because of your own personal view and decision. Of course, there'll be issues here and there. We've seen the good relation that Dr. William has currently with the current presidency, the engagements that he has had or we've had as a country. We've also seen the good relation with the current ambassador, Meg. It's been flowing, things have been flowing. And from my view, there might be, of course, some changes because Trump has really mostly focused with the, you know, Russia, as we all know, unlike the African continent. And African continents mostly are dependent on the development funds from the World Bank, you know, from IMF, that has been there for quite a long time. And we've built relations. These relations have helped us grow bilaterally, you know, as nations, as countries. And so there's going to be a shift. You know, there's going to be, and you see, why was last time, I mean, when Trump tried to, when we saw so many cases that were really following Trump, it's a bit surprising that, I mean, he has that kind of support, but we hope the best for Harris.
If you look at that map, it's more red than blue.
Exactly.
So yes,
exactly.
things
yes.
are really.
Fred, I would want to add one thing. When you talk about illegal immigrants, and I'm not good at English. I don't know when composition will be written in but this is something illegal, isn't it? And looking at it back home here, how would we handle illegal immigrants even in Kenya here? If we have people who came illegally, we don't know their mission, we don't know what they're doing, you know, they cannot be registered. That means they cannot go into the formal system of employment, they cannot pay taxes because they are not registered, isn't it? So to me, taking that one to be an issue against Trump is something I think that any head of state would want to do in his country. I don't know why we think that in our country we would not want to have illegal migrants, but if they go to another country, then they should be allowed to stay. And then there are those procedures of regularizing, isn't it? Why shouldn't one follow the right procedure even if he's already there and regularize and stay there comfortably? And even then, apart from the talk that Trump normally gets, I think, hot-tempered or something, for the 4 years that he was the president, even when he said that he was going to build a wall between his country and he never did it. You see, it couldn't happen because he couldn't get the approvals from the necessary government agencies. That's what I'm saying. For a country like America, and I think that is where we should also aspire to be as Kenyans, is to be a country which is guided by the Constitution, and other government agencies should be working, and the president should be listening, even if I have a contrary view. But the Senate says no, or the parliament says no, or the court say no, then you follow it. And I think that's where, even with his wide ideas, he might not really go far when it comes to the way the government works.
If we look at it introspectively, like the way now we view America, and the depiction we are always portrayed, and this goes for the entire continent, that we are watching these elections with so much interest. But this is a country that is already stretching its begging bowl to whoever wins. So you're wondering, okay, who among the two looks like they'll look at us with more mercy? That is the way we've been portrayed for so long. Do you agree that that is a true situation? That we are simply so much interested in the US elections because we're just looking at, okay, who will give us money now?
Not even just who will give us money, Muli. It's who will we relate well with. Because in any development, in any growth, it starts with a good working relation, whereby they understand our needs and they are able to structure responses or support depending on our needs. That one is very key. And we've seen the issue with Trump earlier. He's also spoken and talked about he's going to introduce, I think, import tariffs. Of course, that will be will affect. There's also instability internationally. So there's already the worry, because it's been there. We've seen how earlier he's been able also to relate. And like Harris, you know, the way, of course, with the fact that she comes from South Africa, then there's positivity. We're looking forward to a lot of developments and positive engagements, rather. It's normal politically to look at things like that. It's always what we call, there's an interest. So where is your interest well taken care?
Okay.
Yes.
But it's a bit embarrassing that is the best, that we can look at our interest.
6 years after independence, we are still looking for a sovereign country, for a sovereign government to look at us with mercy, surely.
But it is a reality.
Yeah, it is the reality, but I think that is where now we should start in retrospect. Yeah, what went wrong, and for how long will we be looking at other countries doing the elections, electing their leaders, and us looking keenly at the praying, because probably there are some people who are even kneeling to pray because we want mercy from this country. How much do we export to America? You see, how much do we import from them? Can we actually change that and say that it's Americans who need us, even if I know Americans are very big in security issues. They look at us that they need us for their own security interests, and therefore we can now go there with our demands and tell them, look, if you want us to do this, this is what you want, irrespective of who is sitting on that Oval Office. But now, I agree, the reality is we are looking at America, watuangalie na jicho la huruma. We will be looking at Israel, ituangalie na jicho la huruma, UK, Britain, and what, for how long? That is, to me, that is the elephant in the room. Remember, our CS Mbandi was in, I think it was so sad, because he put it clearly that we went to America, and then we were forced to queue in the corridor as CSS, and then we were given a few minutes each to go and tick yes or no and told to sign here. For how long will that, 60 years after independence, surely? And we able to actually mobilize our resources? We all know that Africa as a continent has all the natural resources compared to the other continents. For how long are we going to look at these people to look at us with mass? Can't we actually leverage on that and tell them, look, this is the way we want to do our things, and do your things. We'll meet when one needs each other.
Yes.
Period.
Curiously, if you look at the headline on the Business Daily today, it talks about borrowers hit as IMF opposes CBK's plan to cut costs of loans. So the CBK is looking at cutting costs of loans locally. Yeah. But the IMF, which sits in Washington, D.C., tells them no, not now. That's the kind of influence America has.
How long will that continue?
But let's consider the cultural implications. If you look at Democratic Party in the US, very liberal, even about issues of gender, same-sex unions, issues of abortion and rights for women, reproductive rights. Republican Party, very conservative, probably would gel mostly with the conservative nature of most African countries. We've seen what has happened in Uganda. They enacted a law that was not friendly to the kind of issues they believe in there, and there were sanctions as well. So do you think that that could matter, that even the kind of culture that we so much look forward to importing from countries like the US, that could also matter in our situation here, and a Republican administration would be so different from a Democratic one? Senator?
I don't think that would really matter. And I speak from a point of whereby for the longest we've really stood firm with our own culture. I remember former President Uhuru, when it came to the issue of the gayism, you know, and Obama had visited Kenya.
A Democratic president.
Yes. Yeah. And when that question was posed, he said, no, as a country, we don't, you know, we don't support that, and our culture does not support. And up to date, I mean, we've been firm on it. So I don't think because they have their own views and the way they look at things in terms of also the abortion issue, the reproduction, the reproduction issues, we are going to adapt that, and start trying to synchronize that to fit into our culture. No. And actually, as female legislators, we've really been very vocal when it comes to the issues of matters abortion, reproduction, health. There's a bill actually with one of the members, that is Millie, Honorable Millie, and we're really trying to adjust and look at all these matters pertaining reproduction, matters pertaining the hermaphrodites, because we have them and they're human beings. How do we fit that within the act, within the law?
Yes.
So, and we are really focusing as far as our own culture is concerned. So, by thinking that then, apart from the financial elements impact, now we move and start trying to fit and remodernize into their own culture. I don't think so, because for the longest, our cultures have still maintained so strong. And I'm happy because you also find that most of the different counties, they have the cultural days. We've had the Ma within the Maasai region. The other few weeks, we had the president.
Tobongolore.
Yeah, that one in Turkana. And it's an annual cultural. So I don't think that would really...
But it does, a lot of this funding from the US comes through NGOs.
Conditions.
And this funding is usually aligned with some of the things that they hold true and very strongly there. On issues of abortion, women reproductive rights, those are the lines that they will be sending funding through, depending on the administration of the day there and what they believe in. So when you balance between a democratic, more liberal approach and a conservative Republican administration, it could mean a lot in as far as the lines of funding coming to Africa and Kenya in particular.
You see, save for our appetite for foreign exchange. It reaches a point probably where one will say, for as long as these dollars coming in, and of course we want the forex, then let it come in. I would want to take the route Museveni did the other time when he signed into law, and they put sanctions. What has happened after that? Uganda is still there. I don't think they are worse off before and after the sanctions they put. And the law is still there, which I think, to me, he did the right thing, you see. So some of these issues, even when it comes to the NGOs, all NGOs are registered, isn't it? The moment an NGO is registered, comes for registration, or even if it is already registered, but the activities do not align to our cultures, to what the government wants, to what Kenyans want, then that NGO should cease to exist. It's not just about the money that they will bring into that country. Otherwise, then we'll have all manner of cultures, and we have the Western culture, we have the Eastern culture, we have the Northern culture. Of course, there are some cultures which are good. I'm not saying that we should maintain. Otherwise, then we would say, since for some time our women like Tabitha never used to put such nice dresses, they would put just a kitenge down here and there, then they should continue that way. I don't think that should be the position. Okay. But we are saying, to me, from where I sit, as a sovereign country, as a democratic country, it's high time we go to as our constitution and to our traditions and our book, irrespective of what the other countries want. If they want us, they can take our culture to their country, not us taking their culture simply because they are giving us money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we continue monitoring the vote count in the US. It is still an issue of a lot of interest to Africans and to Kenyans. Currently, Donald Trump leading by a huge margin, but quite a number of states still yet to declare their results, so that those numbers will definitely change. Especially, I'm looking at Al Jazeera. I think has Kamala Harris having crossed the 100 mark. NBC has her still at 90. So the numbers keep changing, and in the next 1 hour or so, I think the issue will become more clearer. It is a big headline, the biggest conversation today across the globe and even in our dailies. America's choice is the front page of the Daily Nation. Kamala versus Trump, who will it be, is on the front page of the Standard. After the break, we'll switch gears and focus more on issues locally, right here at TV47. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up
na Wizara ya Kawi na Petroli na washirika wenza.
Right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. We continue taking a look at the big headlines right here on the Morning Cafe State of the Nation. A big jump in Kamala Harris's numbers. This is the latest because we continue monitoring the U.S. elections. California, one of the states with the largest electoral college numbers, 54, has been called for Kamala Harris. So her numbers have at least jumped to 145 as we speak. This is according to Fox News. But the numbers do continue. Yes, 145 against Donald Trump's 214. That's one more state going blue, but you can see a lot of red on that map, meaning a lot of the states have gone the Republican way. We'll continue looking at the numbers, but we now want to focus on matters local. I'm still in studio with Kasim Tandaza, MP Matuga, and Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Now joining the panel, Daniel Orogo, political analyst. Daniel, karibu sana. You missed out on that discussion about the U.S. election. We'll revisit that later. For now, I want us to come to what is a big headline on the front page of the Standard. They talk about abductions, Interior CS, police on the spot. 2 government rights watchdogs want MPs to sanction the Interior Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police over police misconduct during anti-tax demonstrations, even as legislators demand answers on abductions, extrajudicial killings, and results of KNCHR and IPOA probes. So the story is on page 8. And they say members of parliament have been urged to sanction Interior Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police over police misconduct during the anti-tax demonstrations. The KNCHR, that's the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, both government bodies. said the two should be held responsible for police misconduct. The groups were appearing before the National Assembly Administration and Internal Security Committee, where they shed light on abduction, extrajudicial killings, and the results of the investigations. So, KNCHR wants IG, who was in charge back then, Douglas Kanja, and Interior CS, who is now the Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, sanctioned. Let's start from there, Daniel. This has been a long time coming. We're still talking about abductions. People, for the first time at least, we've seen some semblance of closure in as far as these reports are concerned. But do you see these reports seeing the light of day?
Well, I think, Fred, thank you for inviting me. I convey my apologies for arriving late due to circumstances I could have avoided. I think, first of all, the issue of abduction, we've been on set here for quite a number of time, trying to shed light on the conflicted numbers of, the rate of abduction, those that are being reported by different agencies, of course, government, the non-governmental organization, independent policing oversight authority. So it is quite interesting that I think this is coming to fore again. One of the issues that I keep on, insisting is that for the first time, the real number of abduction records needs to be availed to the public. I think then it begins a process of understanding the nature of handling really what went during the protest, post, and even after. For now, the moment people are grappling with the exact numbers of those who are abducted, those who have disappeared, and probably those who cannot be accounted for, that in itself begins conflicted. The lack of data, the lack of understanding the trend, the lack of conflicting information in itself cast aspersion in the whole process in itself. So I think my comments would be that now that is called by the parliamentary committees and and the legislatures, I still insist that I think the institutions still need to address the country with the exact numbers to avoid conflicted on report. That then would then be an interesting and very important point for us as a nation to really understand. So a different platform then, just a day to the swearing in, those issues around, did that now exonerate the current deputy president from responsibilities he held with the office that he served before, now that he's gone to the higher office? Does the office exist in perpetuity to be held to account with where the buck stopped with during the demonstration? So a question has arisen. And then it is important that now the parliamentary committee really calls that to action. Who are they calling to action? The deputy president or the principal secretary that is in Interior?
Will they? That's the question. And at least according to these two reports, have given us numbers. KNCHR said 60 people were killed during the demos. They added that 1,376 people were arrested countrywide. They had recorded 71 cases of abductions, with 26 people still missing. That's according to KNCHR. IPOA, on the other hand, said 6 people are missing, 2 were killed, and 20 others were found alive. Senator, when it comes to legislate, the houses of legislation, the Senate and the National Assembly, they suffered during these demonstrations when demonstrators breached the perimeter wall and ran over the Houses of Parliament, some even gaining access to the chambers. Definitely there's a way you legislators feel about the protests. Now we're seeing a parliamentary committee called upon to bring to fruition some of these recommendations, including sanctioning the Interior CS and the police IG. Should we expect anything from the Houses of Parliament in as far as taking seriously these recommendations by KNCHR?
Muli, as far as the demonstrations were concerned at that particular time, you remember very well when we resumed from recess as Senate, we stood firm and really had a discussion as far as the state of the nation was concerned. And we looked at what had transpired and felt that, of course, the Constitution allows for demonstration, but of course, peaceful demonstrations. Whatever happened, happened and affected both the legislators and our young people were also affected. And the results were achieved because the result was the president should not, by then, assent to the finance bill, something that he abided to, and we moved on from that. Now, the issues that have been there and are still there, one of the key issues that is really pissing us off as female legislators is the issue of the femicide issue. Apart from the killings that have happened during demonstrations, there still continues to be insecurity issues, but mostly targeting the women, something that we are also raising concerns within the same agencies of security. The committees for security, both at the National Assembly and as well as the Senate, they've really embarked on this, and that is why today we are having the reports that we are having now at even the newspaper that you're looking at. And we expect, we are even demanding to see action being taken, because if this does not happen, then we are all of us, are at risk, and yet we have the security apparatus in place. I think the question you're trying to narrow is, should the current deputy president be answerable to his former office, you know? I believe soon, and very soon, we are going to have a new interior CS. He will be able to take office.
Someone else should answer for actions he took while CS for Interior?
The office is always running, and so even if he's not in office, he ran, the office was existing as an office, not just as a person. Mm-hmm. So any report that will be needed or is needed is within the same institution. So whoever comes in will be able to share the same report, because the same personnel, the ones who have also been left there, are able to give the same information.
I'm imagining that some of these reports suggest that this CS then is culpable through acts of omission or commission himself as a CS. Why would someone else, as the senator suggests, why would someone else or a new CS be made to answer for that? We know who was a CS for Interior.
Let me just put a word before my brother comes in. The person who will now be in charge of the office, the Interior docket, will be the CEO of that particular docket at that particular time, and he will be responsible to answer. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that is the same case with the governors. When a new governor comes in, the current governor is the CEO under Article 179. So even in this situation, the person who will take charge will be required to respond to what is currently pending. Did we know we will be having a new, did we know Professor Kindiki will be moving away from his previous docket to the new docket that is in? No, but situations became what they became. So whoever will take charge will be able and will be required to respond. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that if he is needed to maybe give more information from his capacity, he cannot give. That has not been denied.
They're not talking about a probe. They're talking about sanctioning someone for ills that happened during that period.
You see, Fred, najua mimi ni mtu wa kutoka Mombasa. So I had to go to the dictionary and look at the word sanctioning, because I was not quite clear what it entails. And from the Oxford Dictionary, sanctioning, number one, is a threatened penalty for disobeying a law or a rule. It's a threatened penalty for disobeying a law or a rule, isn't it? Now, three issues I would want to look at very briefly. Which law was broken? That is up to the relevant government institutions to establish, you see. And there are enough government institutions to do that. One amongst all the other government institutions when it comes to breaking a law dealing with the police is the IPOA. They are constitutionally mandated, isn't it? So why they should also be lamenting, because from what you read, is that they are also complaining instead of taking action. Where is the problem? They have the constitutional mandate to take action either against the police, the IG, or even the individual police person who mishandled or mistreated or killed somebody. It's not just the IG. I think if I get the law right, as it stands, that IPOA can go for an individual if they have the evidence that he broke the law. Why can't they do that? When it comes to us as parliamentarians, what can we do? We can only investigate and recommend. Save if it reaches to the point where we think that a certain officer has to be impeached, you see. And nobody has talked about impeachment of Kindiki or the current
You're good at impeachment.
We are not going there. So people also should realize what Parliament can do. For all the cases that will be handled by a committee of Parliament, either the Senate or us, be it be KEMSA, be it be fertilizer, be it be whatever, be it be these brutalities, we'll only investigate and recommend to those relevant agencies to take action. If they don't take action, what happens? So I think here we have a problem of our government institutions not actually taking their work seriously. And if there are any gaps in law, that is the time now they can come back to Parliament and say, look, we would have wanted to do this, but there's this gap in law. Can you enact? And I think we'll be very eager to do it, because surely, why should we lose a Kenyan's life? Why should somebody go missing? He cannot be accounted for. Imagine if it was my son or my relative, even as a person, how much it hurts. So I don't think any leader would want that situation to continue.
If KNCHR, which is a government commission, recommends that the CS for Interior should be sanctioned, that is a role for Parliament, the National Assembly.
But I've read the meaning of sanctioning, and I don't think it would be that easy, or it would really go very far. If sanctioning means a threatened penalty for disobeying a law, have they, as KNCH, actually come to the extent that this is the person and this is the law that was broken? Because for us to do sanctioning, we need to establish that there is, and it's not us. You see, we are not constitutionally mandated to, there is the issues of the judiciary and whatever. Ours mainly is legislation, oversight and representation, isn't it? So all what you are going to do will be within those three parameters. Have they done that?
Okay.
You see, that's where I think we'll fall short in sanctioning.
The problem is that many such reports will simply be shelved and gather dust years later. No one will be punished for it.
At the responsibilities as the definition role of the legislation, then they sometimes summon and they sometimes hold hearings, and that would act on a quasi-judicial responsibility.
We've seen them do that.
All right, and this is one of those particular incidences. May I decipher and look at this issue from both criminal and legal perspectives? I wish we could. Probably we have a legal, experts. You see, criminologist has a different term for sanctioning. It also includes penalty, because then there is a threat, and then there is an action that is, inflicted on an individual so that they would be deterred, or anyone would be deterred from doing that kind of an activity again. Now, when you're looking at this particular responsibility that are given towards a legislative arm, mixed with the political responsibilities on it, the reality is very, open, that then members of Parliament would not really inflict a sanction that then would cast aspersion on the persona and end the office of the former Cabinet Secretary of Interior, who is the Deputy President. That is the office right now. But Kenyans would need answers, all right? And me seated here, from non-legislature and probably from civil society, Kenyans would need an answer. And the answer would be that the President of the Republic of Kenya has been on a national television admitting that indeed, in the event and in the process of Gen Z protest, lives were lost. He admits, but then conflicted on the number. All right? Secondly, a national arm or a national institution like the Kenya Human Rights Commission, which is a national arm of government, has equally admitted and has equally given numbers. So that is why I was saying there seems to be an admission that indeed criminals might have infiltrated the demonstration. And as a result, the legal or the law enforcers might have reacted in a manner that people lost lives to protect property, right? And also to protect lives. And the event of that, unnecessary or too much force might have used. On the other end, there could be an extreme measures of containment, including abductions. And that has been, submission. There has been submission of the same. So I think what we are actually looking at here is who is taking responsibility, who is being exonerated. And that's what I've said. In the definition of criminal culpability, the holder of the office by that time, Fred, we'd had conversation post 2007-2008 election violence. The International Criminal Court issued an order for individuals, all right? You remember the individual 6?
Yes.
They did not issue an order on the offices, on individuals. So this is one issue that we as Kenyans need to be told, how is it moving forward?
Okay. The headline of the People Daily says, how Ruto police crushed Gen Zs. It's still stemming from the same report. Faced with an existential political threat by brave youngsters demanding good governance, state deployed dark arts, including abductions, extrajudicial killings. Senator, the question is, and same posed by Daniel Orogo, who takes responsibility? It would appear that even extreme measures by the police or criminal happenings or criminal action by state agencies, that there's no one who can take responsibility. And Parliament is a bit reluctant to follow that route.
I think you're wrong to say Parliament is reluctant because we've stood firm and called the office of the IG. The IG's office is responsible.
The office, not the individual.
The office. The office. And of course, an office has an individual. So whoever sits in that particular office, because even the office of the president has an individual. The office of the deputy, the same way. The office of a member of parliament, Matuga, has an individual. So at the end of the day, it's the office that is responsible. Whoever person is in that office is the one who's responsible. And as leaders, we've called out the security agencies led by the IG's office as far as these issues of abductions are concerned. And we've said, somehow it's being looked at like legislators are doing nothing. Or we are also, ignoring what is happening. No. And the reason is simple. Because you do not know who it will affect tomorrow. It can be you, it can be me, it can be anybody. Because with what we've seen, actually, people who are able, who are at least in their mid-level and above, are the ones being affected. Not even the way we would assume, and people would think that, it's this cadre, it's this cadre. It is affecting anybody. And that's why we are voicing out as leaders. And we've called, and we are still asking the IG's office to come out and bring these abductors. The abductions should stop. We've seen how people have been abducted through this, Subarus without, number plates and all that. We've condemned that completely. And we are condemning because of what I've said earlier, because tomorrow it might be me, it might be you. So we are saying no to it. Let the procedures take place. If someone needs to be arrested, let them be arrested. Let them be told why you are being arrested, what are the accusations, what their illegalities, and the law allows that you need to be represented, and things like that. So looking at it as if the Parliament are doing nothing, it is so wrong because during the protest that happened, this protest came to Parliament. And it was not about you are in this coalition or in this coalition or in this. No, it affected all of us. Some were injured, some really went through a lot and all that, and it's history. And so this is not something that as members of Parliament we are taking lightly. What my brother said earlier is, what do we do? What does our mandate entail us to do? We look, we listen to the submissions, and then we do the recommendations. We give them to the relevant offices. I'll give an example when we do audit for the governors. When Wananchi will come out and say, we are suspected there's fraud here, we will look at the audit reports through the Office of the Auditor General. And what do? We recommend EACC to do a forensic audit to be able to analyze further. That's where our mandate ends.
Yet we run the risk of setting a precedent where killings can happen, people are abducted, and the individuals who oversaw that simply hide under the titles or offices that they hold, and they'll never be held accountable. And it means that it could happen again. After all, someone will say, it is just an office that I was in charge of that did this. That Is that the way to go, really?
Certainly not. Certainly not. But I'm getting, as you are presenting, as you're asking that question, something also cropped into my mind. That probably also the way that headline is titled, it's just meant to hype some emotions towards a certain office. Why? When it comes to the IG, during the protest, Kanja was not the IG. It was Kinoti. But Kinoti is not being called to question. When the protest happened, of course...
Kinoti. Was it Masengeli?
Who
was the IG?
Kinoti is the former DCI.
The acting IG was...
The IG was... yeah, it was not Kanja. Sorry.
There was Masengeli acting IG.
Masengeli acting IG.
Yeah.
Masengeli even acted, but before Masengeli, you know, Masengeli acted for a very short time.
Yeah.
But actually, Masengeli just came in as...
Kome,
yeah. Isn't it? So, my question to that headline is, why call Douglas, who was not in the office then, but when it comes to the deputy president, you want to call the deputy president, and the office, as we rightly said, is still there. What kind of emotions are we trying to create here? Because if we were to go by that set of line, that Kindiki, the current deputy president, should be held. I'm not saying he shouldn't, by the way, because I don't have the facts. He could have even acted personally. You know, sometimes you could be holding an office, but you can also be personally liable for certain actions. I don't have those facts before me. But the facts that I have is, yes, he was there. He has transited. But when it comes to the age and the right of that headline, and to Fred, the line of your thinking is that...
No, I'm just reading the headline. I'm not creating anything.
No, I'm also getting it from you, that you don't mind that it's Kanja who should now be sanctioned, not, we said it was, Kinoti.
Jafet Kome.
Kome, and not Kome. But when it comes to the DP, it should be him personally, not the office that is being held there. So I think as Kenyans also, there are some issues which we need, going forward, we need to be factual. From where I sit, I believe even the deputy president, current deputy president, can shed light, if necessary, if that point reaches in any investigation, even within the government agencies, that, well, this current office holder has gone this far, but I think you could also help us in this matter because you are actually there. That can happen. But actually trying to sensationalize issues that now...
Are we sensationalizing matters?
I don't think that is the right way to go.
From the scope, the presentation here, I think there needs to be, and I agree some actions with Honorable Tandaza. I think sometimes the sword of justice needs to cut in both ways. I believe that those transitions... Actually, Koome resigned, right? In the heat of the moment, and when the political class was calling for him to be accountable. Then there was resignation, then transition, then acting, and then another transition. So in between that particular, between the demonstration until the calming of that situation, we might probably have had, some blood responsibilities around the office of the IG. Because then you ask, do we hold to account Koome, who resigned when things were thick? And then do we hold to account Masengeli, who took over briefly at the helm of that demonstration? Or do we now hold the current IG responsible, who seems to have stabilized within the office? So questions also needs to be raised within that particular transition process. But I agree to some extent that, yes, there is an extent the parliament can go. And by the way, the Constitution, and I repeat, gives Parliament a quasi-judicial authority. What does that mean? That there are certain powers that the Parliamentary Committee has. Far from just recommending, I think and in the definition of what Honorable Tandaza said, that there could be a threat for sanction. Yes, parliamentary committees can issue threat and say that that particular office could be denied even some finances because they are the ones who allocate, and appropriate how that. So there could be that kind of threat, but then there could also be that kind of calling to account. I believe that the holders of the office still needs to provide accountability in what happens, and not only in the office of the AG and whoever was holding the office of the Interior. Could be that the minister was a little bit high, was not really, but the buck stopped with him. Could be that there is principal secretary, but the buck stopped with him. But Fred, also on this other end, as a nation, we should condemn certain elements of criminal activities that are sprouting. Because, as I said, criminologists identify, they call something a broken window theory. That if you see in this particular situation that we are seeing small pickpocketers coming here and pickpocketing people, and we do not condemn it. Yeah. Next time, they are going to graduate and start knifing people. And then, if we don't condemn that, next time they are going to increase in other crimes. So what happens, particularly now in this country, is that since we did not condemn extrajudicial killing, then it is, you don't know who is abducting who. Could be even the issues of femicides that we are talking about. Then, and so the police, Inspector General of Police, say that indeed they acknowledge that there is increase of femicide, but that is also in respect with general crime. You understand? So what was that saying? It could be possible that someone can absolve themselves from taking responsibilities of femicide by saying that indeed it is a general criminal activity that is arising, simply because we did not condemn criminal activities. You see, there's abduction. You see, there is killing of, Wells Fargo, Director of Finance, I think, HR, something like that. And then all of a sudden, there's another criminal activity somewhere, and abductions of people. So it's quite difficult, thin line, to say who is involved in this criminal crime. Yep. Is it agencies? Is it criminal elements taking advantage of the situation that was not dealt with? So I think as a nation we need to...
And the question still rings true. Who is going to take responsibility? It's the question also on the front page of the Star, and if we could just now move on to the issues of femicide. The question is, in cold blood, who will stop these killings? The Star has gone with the high numbers of women who have been killed. The gruesome nature of the murders has sparked national outcry, with many calling on the president to declare a situation a national disaster. It is on pages 4 and 5. And on the front page, they have pictures of some of those women who've been victims of these killings in the recent past. So yes, on one hand, we say that maybe in the abductions, we are still not sure who should be held responsible, but definitely someone should take responsibility over the rising criminal activity going on in the country. Yes, it is beyond just the women being killed. Men are also being killed, but there's a stark, noticeable number of women who have died. Senator, someone should be held responsible.
Yes, someone should be held responsible. We've said it and said it loud, and we keep on saying it more louder. Because looking at those women, they are young women who have been targeted and who have been killed. And we are saying that the office of the IG, the security, the interior office, they are responsible. They should be able to bring these culprits to book. And why we are so sad is because from the time that these issues, the femicide issues, were raised, we've not seen individuals who've been brought to book. I think the last guy who was arrested in, where is this place? In Embakasi, Kware. In Kware. Sadly, this guy just ran from the cells miraculously, It's so sad. And it's the responsibility of the police, it's the responsibility of the office of the IG to bring these people to book. Because if this is not addressed, it worries us. It worries us as a country. It worries for our daughters, for our sisters, for any woman. It really does worry.
It is the same risk I was talking about, that we run the risk of having such things go undeterred, yet no one will ever take responsibility. Not the suspects, no one is getting arrested, even those arrested manage to get away, not the police responsible for security. No one is actually being held responsible for anything.
But we've communicated, we've pronounced that, we've answered you, we've said the office that is responsible for this. And further to that, that is why I'm happy I had the other day Moses Kuria talking about that there should be systems as far as the issue of B&B is concerned. They should be all be registered within a certain system. The issue of CCTV within the Uber, the taxi transport. We saw that girl from Mombasa who was killed, the taxi driver. And it's so sad because she's trying to make an income. She's earning a living. And then her life is brought to an end by someone. So the office that is responsible should be able to bring these culprits to book. That is the sad situation. And we've pronounced and said the president should announce that femicide is now a national disaster. At the same time as women leaders, not just as leaders, just as women, we are now demanding to have a minister for gender. That docket is still vacant. We need someone who's going to be on the front, someone we can be able to sit down and voice more on this and streamline some of these issues. The gender desk issues all over, they are there. We have gender desks even with in the police institutions and all that, but still these killings are still going on and on and on. As it has been narrowed that femicide is being looked at it from the perspective of that what we've seen, data says that most of these killings are happening, these women are being killed by people that they have related with. And then we ask, what is wrong in relating? Would I be knowing that I'm relating with a murderer? Would I really be knowing that my life is going to come to an end? Some years back, we had that student, I think she was in a university in Rift Valley. And then when this young man went all the way to Rift Valley with one intention, just to kill. Then you wonder, even in that journey, there was no sensibility of the young man to feel like, hey, but this person has been my close friend. Let me even abandon my mission. But he went, he knew his mission, bought a panga. He had executed step by step. There was no room that we would have felt that let me abandon this exercise and just forgive this situation or amend this situation. And these things for femicide are still continuing, and they're threatening our women so much. So, I mean, the office of the IG, we need to see these people brought to book. Yes. The other day, I think I saw on social media 2 cases. There's one case in Isili where we're seeing a house help opening, sort of, they have colluded with a stranger. They open for the stranger who comes and murders a woman. Recently I've had a case I've seen in the social media again, where bodies have been cut and they're being even boiled. It's so sad. Really
gruesome. And the gruesome nature of murders has sparked nationwide outcry, with many calling on the president to declare a national disaster. We filed a story on the same, but before we even watch the story, I would want to get your sentiments.
You see, Fred, what happens after declaring it a national disaster? What is it that we are missing that will come by declaring it? To me, the issue of killings is two-pronged. One, there is the issue of mental health. Us as parliamentarians, have we done anything about it? If you've been following the proceedings of Parliament, we've had so many bills enacted in terms of handling mental health, because for quite a long time, it's like we were living, culturally, mtu alikuwa akiwa mwenda mwazimu, mnamdisown. You see, and that has not helped the situation. It has exacerbated. So now we want to bring the issues of mental health on the forefront. Whether there'll be enough resources for handling those cases, counseling and all that is another question. But at least there's something that we as parliamentarians are doing when it comes to handling, because some cases of the killings we are talking about as a result of mental health. The other issue that we should confront, and I think this will sanitize everything, is something that I'm tired of talking about, the issue of corruption. Because my colleague Tabitha here, Senator, said, Mheshimiwa, that miraculously, I don't think it was miraculous, money changed the hands. Why are we talking, this guy never evaporated, hakupaa juu, akaenda mbinguni, he walked out, surely. What is miraculous in that walking out? It's obvious that money changed the hands. And that is the same situation that we find, that even now, when and this is the office of the IG, and not only the IG, even the DCI, that the people who investigate such cases, they end up pocketing money and mislead, even do the statements themselves, so that even if that person goes to court, he definitely cannot be convicted. They know what to do, but they deliberately don't do it so that they can benefit personally. So here, to me, the issue is bigger than what you are thinking about. Because yes, the issue of mental health, and then the issue of criminology, which the police, as individuals, actually are not interested in handling apart from what they can get out of that. Okay. And this happens in any other cases when it comes to the issue of corruption. And this is a situation where, again, it is not about the IG, it is about our president, who I love so much, and I know he's doing so much about it, to tame corruption. Because for as long as people go taking money in the different government agencies, we can talk, we can declare, we can redeclare, we can pray, we can do anything, but that is where
it is a deepening crisis, a country's silent war on women. These are just some of the headlines, and it's there, the big one, the splash on the front page of the Star. We also filed a report. One of our reporters, Samira, has a story. Let's watch it.
100 women later. In just a period of 3 months of a worrying increase of femicide cases in the country.
File and implement.
Today, the issue of femicide was highlighted as an urgent crisis that demands immediate action.
A societal problem. It's a problem that we must deal with. We are in a crisis that we must admit. We cannot continue hiding our heads under the sun. We are in a crisis.
Tuesday, the State Department for Gender, in collaboration with civil society, non-government organization and rights groups, strongly condemned the increasing killing of women in the country. They further stated the rising cases of femicide witnessed in the country should trigger a robust response from all government apparatus to combat it.
It is not enough to give statements. What we want now is action taken. We want to see perpetrators brought into books, and we want to see a whole approach to this thing, because it's not about women, it's not about girls, it's not about leaders. It's a societal problem that we all need to come together and address it.
Condemning the murders, Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat stated that the police are meticulously carrying out investigations to ensure the perpetrators of the heinous acts are brought to book.
Condemning the acts of femicide, and as we have agreed that this is purely murder, this is criminal cases that are not going to be acceptable in our society. The cases that are there right now are actively investigated, and some are in courts. And in the fullness of time, we will be able to put all these people in custody.
A section of leaders now wants femicide treated as a serious national security issue, noting the statistics on women being killed in the country is worrying.
Government eye is not everywhere. Even as we are saying, this issue of GBV and murders that are going on is actually a big problem in government, something that we need to work on, noting that matters criminal, matters health, femicide is actually a national security issue.
Samira Mohammed for TV 47.
Yes, that story there by Samira Mohammed, wrapping up that conversation about femicide, but we're still on matters security. The office vis-a-vis the individual. Now, there's another headline that talks about the substantive replacement of CS for Interior. So it's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto headache in picking Interior CS as we come closer to the end of the show. President William Ruto is reportedly keen to ensure his choice of Interior CS nominee does not occasion a political contest, upset regional balance in a crucial national security organ, or estrange his newly found ally, opposition leader Raila Odinga. The story proceeds further on pages 4 and 5, where they talk about this delicate balance that the president has to go through, and quoting some people like the National Assembly Majority Whip, Silvana Sosoro, saying that this is not a preserve of the big communities. And it always comes down to the community. I don't know. I've seen members of ODM even tweeting and saying that now it should go to a Luo, at least one MP saying that. Bwana Orogo, this is someone who's going to be in charge of Kenya's security agencies. We've seen the kind of crisis we are in, the kind of challenges we're facing right now. Femicide, increased criminal levels, issues to do with also abductions and extrajudicial killings. Definitely, whoever is chosen for this job has a lot to do, but we do not have that person yet, because it is a delicate balance that the president has to play.
Yeah, and probably, unfortunately, is the fact that the office before someone is replaced to take the responsibility, then I think that is also seen within the lens of political responsibility or political discussion, seen on the lens of trying to do the horse trading in balance, whether it comes from central Kenya, whether it comes from, Nyanza.
Should it matter? That's a question.
I mean, ideally speaking, then it should be an office, the office holder should be someone who is up to task. Ideally, I'm talking about ideal, that we should have a man or a woman who, or anyone who occupies that position, who is able to understand the intricate balance that that particular office holds and the critical nature on the context of what we've just talked about. That bearing the responsibility and swearing the oath to be at the helm of that office, it then requires a person to understand that in one or the other time they would be responsible, by providing accountability to the increased criminal activities that we are now holding, to increased internal insurgency, the threat by, banditry, increased economic crimes, the ones that we are just, maybe not touched on. So it's a whole lot, and it's domiciled at the office of the president, underscoring the responsibilities and how that office is very critical to the infrastructure of this country as well. So I think that is ideal. Realistically speaking, then, it's another thing. But the question it would be, the office that is so much dear to the presidency, then what responsibility or what would the president envision towards the person that would occupy that position? Is he a person, a technocrat? Is he, and if you talk about the technocrat, then it means the principal secretary who's been working throughout could be then be graduated to be the minister, understanding now the context. If we are talking about someone to hold accountable and for continuity, all right, then we would say that, could we then graduate him to occupy that particular office? Or, being a technocrat, would we retain the principal secretary and the rest towards the office within that they hold? But again, I think this is what is expected. You are going to expect, being a powerful, ministry, ODM would ask for their share, given the fact that they supported the government throughout in the National Assembly and everywhere to carry out a very important task that have just been concluded with the numbers. Or then would expect that people probably from central Kenya would now say that if you've done a replacement, then this office would definitely be ours in the taking. So that would be expected.
Yes, there's a lot of lobbying within Kenya Kwanza for that position. And there's also ODM on this other side now coming back to claim their pound of flesh. We did this for you. We expect something back. Those kind of considerations, are they what the president should be looking at right now in such a delicate, such a sensitive docket?
If you remember on last week on Friday, when the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Professor Kitiki, was being sworn in, and the President was making his remarks, there's a key word that he emphasized, that he had noticed that the Deputy President really brought it out, and brought it out very well. This is unity for Kenya, bringing, a leader for the whole country. And that is what the President is looking at. That is very key currently as far as the issue of national unity is concerned. That is the focus of the President right now. So as far as the docket for Interior is concerned, it's not about this coalition or that coalition. Where it stands right now, yes, it's a political appointment, but the President currently is looking at that individual who has the competency to be able to deliver nationally, countrywide, not just deliver because I'm from this coalition or deliver because I'm on the government coalition. No, but just deliver to Kenyans wholesomely. If you look at the recent appointments, reshuffle of the cabinet, we saw very fresh, new individuals. The education minister, the minister for health, the CS agriculture. These are new faces, totally, completely. And so we're looking forward, whereby even the person who's going to replace Professor who really worked very well and was able to transition from one county to the other on whatever security matters were concerned. That is the kind of a person that we are looking forward to, even us as leaders, someone we can also be able to work very closely with, and also someone who's a team player, looking at also working closely with the other ministries and also working with the president, but not someone who makes their own individual decision for their own personal interest. The other day I saw the Deputy President, Professor Kindiki, asking, is it public interest? Is it national interest? Because we are trying to understand how should it be offered? Because what the president is emphasizing is national delivery, national unity. So we are looking forward to someone who has massive experience also on national issues, someone who's going to ensure that is going to work very closely with the other agencies of security agencies to be able to ensure we deliver and bring the national security issues to a higher level from even where they have been.
Yet the president cannot afford to ignore the politics of the day, can he?
For sure, the president cannot afford to ignore the politics because he's also a politician. Remember, he campaigned. You know, this is not just an executive position where he applied and he was interviewed and 75 marks, you fit to be the CEO. No. So definitely politics comes in. But I don't think the president is having really a hard time trying to pick somebody because, one, the Constitution is very clear when it comes to those appointments. And he saw by the Constitution, and so far he's been going by the Constitution. I can say so far so good, and I know he'll maintain that. One, in appointments, you look at, of course, the integrity issues, Chapter 6, and then the issue of regional balance. I think that is clear, it is in our Constitution, so we'll look how are those 21 or 22 CSS from their regions, that is a factor. And then also the gender issue could also be a factor in terms of, otherwise then it can be people who again go to court and say it's unconstitutional. I don't think we want to go to that direction of courts and constitutionalism. Those are some factors. But when it comes to the issue number one, the issue of integrity, to me that is the most important thing. Because if you actually qualify under Chapter 6 to lead, then the issue of the ethnicity doesn't come in. The issue of bias doesn't come in. The issue of trying to favor your relative, it doesn't come in if you pass. Do we have enough people in our country who can actually confidently go through Chapter 6? There are few. And I believe the president will go for those few, in my view. There are few. They are not, it's not a question that they are not there. I know they are there, but they are few. And I know the president will go for those few.
In his attempt to bolster his administration, is really going political. Just going to ODM to get a few people to support his administration. He has done that. Even as he looks to unite the country. We've seen that he's gone to fish from ODM to get people. Won't he do the same even this time around? Just look for a political figurehead.
I don't think, to me, the issue of ODM or DAP or Kenya Kwanza comes in. My worry would be he went to ODM, picked our colleague CS Mbandi to the CS Treasury. What qualifications does he have? A CPA, isn't it? I would be worried if he took a surgeon to be the CS. It doesn't matter whether it was from ODM or Kenya Kwanza. To me, that's what would be worrying me. And I think this is what the president, our beloved president, should be looking at the appointments at that level. Not only at the CS level, but even at the board level, you see. Because if you get the right person, he makes your work easier. If you get the wrong person, then you need a lot of supervision. He actually gives you a lot of headaches. So how much time do you have to spread yourself thin? So to me, I am not really worried about the time. One, the Constitution should be followed. Get somebody with the right credentials who actually know. You know, we've just been talking about the failed institutions here. And every institution is headed by a person. So when the institution fails, I remember when we were in primary, we were told that the school is as good as the headmaster, isn't it? So when we are talking about the institution, the individual definitely comes in. Can we get the right individuals in all those offices? And then we move forward.
Who should ideally be held responsible when things go wrong? All right. We have 3 minutes
then the
for
question,
you to make
would
your
that be,
final comments.
Would that be a politician? Would that be a technocrat? You see, that's what I was looking at in my statement. Then it means a critical docket as the Ministry of Interior. that holds a number of agencies within, then that then requires, I agree with my colleagues on the side, that then requires credibility, qualifications, and merit. However, as things goes, there's been a call for consideration. Political consideration, which then, I don't know how that would be a balance of a political consideration versus technocracy, qualifications, and performance. I think for us as a country, because you're asking us, me to probably to give the closing remark, I think we are at a point where we are trying to adjust and demystify, open this puzzle of national unity, and try to define it to make sure that it fits the context and is politically and realistically correct. That in a sense, it will not be a term that would be used to settle some scores, all right? In either way, talking about whether you're in government or not, it could be either way. And so the president has a call for national unity and has a call for people to work together. And that has been the call of the nation. How then would we support the government of the day? By providing constructive criticism for the performance so that we graduate from states and then we become a nation of nationhood. I think that would be my closing remarks.
Senator, your closing.
I really appreciate this statement when he says constructive criticism. That is very good. That's very positive. What I want to say is that the president has got no headache as far as choosing this interior CS position is concerned. Simply because he's been a leader, he's been a politician for the longest. He has massive experience, and the issue of the Mount Kenya in terms of the deputy president, now it's gone to still Mount Kenya. That one is sorted. In terms of bringing in 4 ODM members, that has happened. We have 4 ODM members as CSs. So where is the headache? He's actually balanced everything and he's okay, he's good to go. This is one of the simplest tasks that he's going to undertake, and within, I believe within the shortest time, this will be. So the media should stop trying to make it a big fuss, like, oh, you know, there's an issue. This is one of the simplest exercises that the president is going to undertake. He knew this process was happening. He knew he was bringing in this process was ongoing, the impeachment process, so we had to have a new deputy president, and all this was known. So it's very set. This is one of the simplest. Actually, what he's just doing is just waiting for the deputy president to settle comfortably, everything to start running, then step by step. There's no pressure. And lastly, I really want to take this opportunity to wish all the learners, all the students doing their KCSE, I wish them well in their national examinations. And it's not the end of life. Do what you can do and let God do the rest.
Thank you, Senator. Finally, Tandaza.
Fred, there's something which really annoys me. Okay, maybe that's not the correct word to use. That for the general public or for people like our colleague here, Orengo, he talks of a politician. Orogo. He talks of a politician and a technocrat. Who said that politicians are not technocrats? You know, there is this notion which people have built that if you are a politician, you are, you are not a professional, you cannot do anything.
It has been proven that it's
quite
difficult to have a balance.
There are so many professionals. There are so many. So my closing remark is to the Kenyans on that point. Please, let's go for an individual. Let's not say a politician and a technocrat. We know there are people who are politicians, they are not doing any better in this country. Correct. And we also know there are politicians who are technocrats on their own right, and once transit, they can do a better job than those who have not been there. Lastly, there are those who started as technocrats and ended up as politicians. So now, do you say they cease to be technocrats because they went into politics? No. No, please. Please.
Thank you. Probably we have time to demystify that. We will have time to get to understand that particular, unpack that particular issue. Yeah.
Allow me to end this conversation here because we have another conversation after the break to do with femicide, which is still big discussion. So thank you so much, Daniel Orogo, political analyst, Kasim Tandaza, MP Matuga, and Senator Tabitha Mutinda, our panelists this morning on TV47, State of the Nation. As we take a look at the big headlines, America's Choice is still a big headline, and the numbers keep changing. Kamala Harris getting now closer to 200 electoral votes. Meanwhile, Trump, akombele proper. Other highlights and other big headlines to do with the cold blood killings, especially of women across the country, and also the abduction and extrajudicial killings. So do stand by for that conversation after the break. My name is Fred Indimuli. Good morning.